We ready to roll? Good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Al Howard reporting live for Eyewitness News. We're at Scout Hall, where Pack 159 just suffered a terrible incident. Mark, can you tell us what happened here?
We were going to go camping, but somebody broke in and took all our equipment, moved everything.
How many boys were going to be going out?
15.
And when were you going to be leaving?
This morning.
What's going to happen now, Mark?
We're just going to have to wait and see what comes out.
Seems like nobody's safe from crime.
Aha! That's where I come in.
It's McGruff.
That's me, McGruff, the crime prevention dog. You've probably seen me on TV.
McGruff here. See that guy? He's stealing that bike. Now, see that lady?
And when I'm not on television, I'm out showing folks how they can help to fight crime. And if each one of you will watch real close, I'll show you how you can take a bite out of crime. I spend most of my time out on the street. You know, you learn a lot in my line of work, and one thing you find out real quick is it pays to learn from experience. For instance, let's take a good look at some of the crimes in my files. It was the morning of May 17th. Jeremy English was on his way to school. He was riding his new bike. It was real neat, and Jeremy was feeling good.
Oh, neat, is that your new bike? Yeah, my dad bought it for me.
In fact, Jeremy could hardly wait to get out of school to ride his new bike some more.
Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Hey, Steve, come in. My bike. It's gone.
The same day, in a city not far away, Gloria Martinez put her lunch money in her desk. When she came back to her desk for her money,
My lunch money. It's gone.
and just across town, the same thing happened to Jeff Long.
My skateboard. It's gone. Mom, Dad, hurry.
Gloria, Jeremy, and Jeff could have prevented their losses. Valuable things like lunch money, or a skateboard, or a bike should always be locked up safely, even if you're only going to be gone a few minutes.
Can you hold this for me? Certainly.
That's the way. And another thing. Make sure your bike's registered with an official license tag. In fact, if you want to be real smart, you get your folks to engrave all your valuable things with your name and their driver's license number. That'll make a thief think twice about stealing your things. And it'll also help the police to return anything of yours that they find. But wait, there's more to this story. Now take the case of Lisa, a little girl whose house was burglarized. This is what happened.
Is the back door locked in the sliding glass window?
I think so.
You think so?
Come on, hurry up. We're already late.
Uh-oh, he should have checked those locks. This is what crooks like these love to see. A real easy job. It's not enough to have locks on the windows and doors. You gotta use them. To make sure that this never happens to your family, learn how to use every lock in the house. And if your folks forget to lock up, be sure that you don't. Remember, more burglaries happen during the day than at night. Now, what do you do when you're home all alone and someone comes to the door?
Who is it?
Man from the gas company.
I'm sorry, you'll have to come back another time.
Good girl. Never open a door to anyone you don't know, and never answer their questions. They could be checking the place out to break into later. Now, if a stranger calls, play it smart.
Hello?
Is your mother there?
Don't let on that your folks aren't home.
My mother can't come to the phone right now. Bye.
Good girl. Aw. Now, most folks are friendly and mean us no harm. But there's always a few that you gotta watch out for. Let me show you what I mean. Brian here is on his way to the corner market. He tells his mom where he's going, and he takes a friend with him. They don't take any shortcuts or walk through lonely places. And for sure, they don't accept any rides from a stranger.
Just want a ride?
No thanks.
Long walk.
No thanks.
Okay.
Brian and his friend were smart. They got to the market safely. Even living in the country, you can learn to protect yourself and your neighbors. You see, these folks are getting burglarized. Now, Kevin and Ray, who live just up the road, see what's happening and use their heads. They try to remember as much as they can, being careful not to put themselves in danger. Then they hurry back to tell their grandfather.
Grandpa! Something's going on at the daily place.
What's happening?
We saw someone take the TV from the house.
What were they driving?
A blue van.
Let's go call the sheriff.
Now those are what I call real crime stoppers. Of course, stopping crime means always obeying the law yourself.
Hey, look, that's neat. Let's take it. No, that belongs to somebody. Let's take it back to the coach.
Now those guys did the right thing. Sometimes it's tempting to take someone else's things. But stealing is wrong. It's a crime. And the same goes for damaging someone else's property. Fact is, every crime hurts. And we all pay. The police can't be everywhere. We need your help. And you can help if you remember to mark your things and keep them safely locked up. Learn how to use door and window locks. Never give information to strangers when you're home alone.
My mother can't come to the phone right now. Bye.
Never walk or play alone. Or in lonely places. Never go anywhere with anyone without your parents' permission.
Just want a ride?
No thanks.
Long walk.
No thanks.
Okay.
Report anything that looks like it's wrong to a trusted adult and be careful not to put yourself in danger. And be one of the good guys. Never steal and never damage anyone else's property.
No, that belongs to somebody. We should give it to the coach.
Take it from your old pal McGruff. You and me can make things better and safer for us all if we all pull together to take a bite out of crime.
Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the board of the Southland Corporation, Mr. John Thompson.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Southland is concerned about a very real problem facing our society, robbery. We're also concerned about you because you are so important to Southland. We care about your safety and your well-being as employees of our company. That's why we've prepared the film you will be seeing in just a moment. Please watch carefully and learn as much as you can, because the better prepared you are for any situation, the safer you'll be.
My next guest has been with us before. Ray Johnson has led a fascinating life, and he has some very unusual qualifications for his current job. Ray has spent a total of 25 years in prison for armed robbery, but for the past several years, he's been traveling around the country as a special consultant and lecturer on crime prevention.
Johnny Carson was talking about me. I'm Ray Johnson, and for the next few minutes, I'd like to invite you to join me for a candid discussion about a very serious matter, armed robbery. I've spent 25 years behind bars, 5 of those in solitary for committing armed robberies. Now, all of my energies are devoted to preventing crime, but it still happens, and you could be the next victim.
For a long time, I felt that it only happened to the other person. I felt like, never to us, because we had discussed it. We had been able to prevent them, we thought, and we were on top of it all of the time.
Well, me and my friend, he was driving the car, you see, and, well, we just cruising the expressway, and I think we pull off every now and then and look for a place, you know. I had a piece, a gun. I ripped it off in a burglary somewhere, I don't know, and we figured we'll find some fools and hit them. Hey, they had the bread, we needed it, so we pulled off this exit and bang, there it was.
It happened one Sunday night, I believe. One other clerk and myself in a store that I was managing at the time were on duty. And a young man came into the store and proceeded to gather merchandise and put it on the sales counter.
Well, I went in the store real cool-like, you know. I started getting some groceries together, watching, being real careful. My partner, he parked around the side. He was waiting on me.
The young man presented a weapon after the store was emptied of customers. He happened to have it behind his back in some kind of manner, in his trousers, I believe, and he had a jacket hanging low enough that you couldn't see the weapon, until this time, and he kind of stuck his hand behind him and pulled it out and presented it and pointed it at me.
So I pulled out my piece and said, I'll pay for it with this. They laid the bread on me right out, man, no problems.
The first feeling is fright, just horror, total horror. This person is holding your life or for sure injury in his hand. And, what happens over the next few seconds and then minutes can determine what happens to you, in the rest of your life. So it's very, very frightening.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I was really scared. I was shaking, I mean, adrenaline's all flowing. It's a real rush, man.
Again, he is, to me, is as frightened as I was. And a lot of times, you pick this up. His hand was trembling. He was at a pretty high tempo, high pitch emotionally, as we were.
Well, you don't make a lot of money, but it's a living. Seemed a lot better than working at the time, because all the fools were working, and where'd I get them? But if I'd known it was only $20, man, I'd passed.
The most important thing is to be aware of the fact that it can happen to you, and to acknowledge the fact that robberies are a realistic possibility.
Full cooperation. It's one way you may be able to avoid being injured during a confrontation with an armed robber. You must never forget, the robber is probably as scared as you are.
The employee needs to remember, above all, that the robber is anxious and nervous and tense. Just as anxious and nervous and tense, as a matter of fact, as the employee. And so any sudden movement, anything that would startle him, anything that would cause him to be caught off guard should be avoided if at all possible. One way that the employee can do this is to inform the robber ahead of time of any unexpected movement or sound that he might expect. The ringing of a telephone, the opening of a door, perhaps someone is expected to come in. The employee can inform him. Even something as simple as the potential or the possibility of a customer entering the store. The employee should inform him of this. He should let the robber know, certainly let him know, if there's anyone in the back room, if there's anyone else on the premises. He should inform him of every possible contingency and every possible thing that the robber might face which would startle him or catch him off guard or would cause him to do something impulsive. But it would be best if the victim in a circumstance like this would respond as little as possible, that is verbally, respond only when spoken to by the robber, and to respond as positively as possible, that is to use yeses rather than nos, to use yeses in every possible situation, to keep conversation as brief as possible, to limit the amount of verbal interaction, to shake their head up and down like this, indicating agreement with the situation rather than disagreement, and to say yes as often as possible. These are positive responses which, again, help to stabilize the situation because they make the robber believe that he has everything under his control.
Once a robbery is over, there are certain recommended steps you should take. These measures will assist police officials with their investigation and will, hopefully, lead to the arrest and conviction of the criminals.
We would encourage people who have been involved in a robbery situation to use extreme care in reporting it to police. When the robber is gone, and only when it's safe to do so, then call the police and notify their supervisor. Now, we ask that when they call police that please do not hang up the phone until they're actually told to do so. I would also write down on a description form of what actually occurred during the robbery. Write down what the robber said and describe the robber as best you can.
As we have heard, there are many ways to avoid escalation of a situation from an armed robbery to violence. There's another factor of major importance.
Southland has a very definitive weapons policy. We not only prohibit the possession of firearms in our stores, but also clubs, knives, chemical agents, or any other type of weapon that could be used. We feel the possession of these type things is only an escalation to an already bad situation. It's our feeling one weapon in the store is one too many already.
Now, let's recap for just a moment those steps you should take if you find yourself in an armed robbery situation. First, cooperate with the robber as fully as possible. Obey all of his commands. Secondly, try to make the robbery happen as smoothly and as quickly as possible. Don't argue with him, don't fight with him, and don't try to use any weapons or attempt to chase the robber. Tell the robber about any surprises. Then when the robber has left the store and it is safe to do so, call the police and your supervisor. Write down a description of the robber and do not conduct any business until the police have arrived. And remember, The money is not the important thing. You are. The best way to avoid injury during robbery is to prevent the armed robbery. Southland has created an armed robbery prevention program that has been effective in reducing armed robberies. Southland's robbery prevention program actually began a number of years ago. We recognized we did in fact have a problem with armed robbery, so research was conducted. I was part of that original study. That research led to the establishment of our current program, which emphasizes such things as visibility, cash handling, lighting, escape routes. All of these things are part of the program which was developed during those years. Let's look at some of the steps you can take as recommended in the robbery prevention program. Give your store a fishbowl look so that you can see outside clearly and police or passers-by can see inside. Be alert and act like a professional. A half-asleep clerk in a sloppy store tells a potential robber that you are probably careless with the way you handle your money and make your cash drops. When you don't look alert and professional, it's an open invitation for trouble.
Thank you.
If you don't have any customers in the store, move away from the sales counter by sweeping or dusting or stocking the store. A potential robber knows that it would take time to get you back to the sales counter, and time is one thing a robber doesn't have. Give a friendly greeting to everyone who enters the store. Customers like this kind of helpful attention. Robbers don't. This kind, friendly, human contact may reduce your chances of being robbed.
Red one's all right.
Look them directly in the eyes and ask them if you can help them. It decreases the element of surprise which all robbers want, and it increases their chances of being identified later on. Another thing that may change a would-be robber's mind. Again, keeping alert at all times may be one of your best precautions against robbery. Notice what is going on outside the store. Be aware of cars parked across the street or off to one side of the lot. Look for anyone who may be watching the store. If you become suspicious, do not hesitate to call the police and ask for a patrol check.
Hello, this is Mac Johnson, 7-Eleven store at Blackburn and McKinney. Two males parked across the street, been there a good while now. I'm kind of concerned about it. Wonder if you could have a patrol stop by. Right, Blackburn and McKinney. Thank you.
Don't be embarrassed if it turns out to be a false alarm. The police are there to help you. It's their job.
We found that aggressive patrol by uniformed officers seems to be very effective. Often the clerk can spot who a suspect is by the actions of a person who's just aimlessly walking around or milling around the store or around the premises. Often suspects will park themselves in a car across the parking lot, sit and watch the store for a period of time while they case the establishment out. Others just might make one entrance in the store, get the feel of the store, and come right back out, build up their nerve, and go right back in and present the firearm and their demands.
Initial research has shown that larger amounts of money and a higher potential for armed robbery go together. We urge you to keep a minimal amount of cash in your register because the less money there is, the less incentive a robber has to rob you. Ask your customers for exact change or the smallest bill possible. Again, reduced amounts of available cash and reduced incentive for robbery go hand in hand.
Get your bag for that.
If you would mind for that, please. Word gets around fast. So if you drop all your $10 and $20 bills the moment you get them and let your customers know why you are doing it, you'll be helping to spread the word that robbing your store is just not worth it.
Hey, what are you doing there anyway?
Well, it's a drop safe. We keep all of our large bills, 10s and 20s, in there. Cuts down on the amount of cash in the register, helps prevent robberies.
Good idea. See you later.
Yeah.
You should be sure to use the Tidal cash controller to provide ready access of change or small bills. It is in itself a deterrent to the armed robber. Here is another precaution you can take. You should operate only one register late at night through early morning. Open up the empty, unused register drawer and tip it up so the people can see it is empty. It's simply another deterrent to armed robbery. It's impossible to cover every situation that could arise. So a great deal depends on your judgment. But we request that you view this film several times and that you take time to familiarize yourself with the robbery prevention material available to you. It will be time well spent. Because the more informed you are, the better prepared you are to help prevent crime, and the safer you will be if a robbery should occur. Also, if you have any questions about anything we have covered here today, please feel free to ask your security manager. He'll be more than happy to help you with any information you need. Our entire program is designed to reduce the possibility of robbery, to simply make it more difficult to rob a 7-Eleven store, and at the same time, through reduced cash and an increased alertness on your part, to make the store less attractive to a potential robber. We've said it before, but we feel that it is important to repeat. You are the most valuable asset Southland Corporation has. The main concern we have for each of you is your safety and your welfare. By putting into action the steps that you have seen here and informing yourself with our additional crime prevention materials, you may reduce the threat of a robbery and increase the safety of yourself and those around you.
They always seem to happen when you least expect them, and that's when, you know, that person that you hear about becomes you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the board of the Southland Corporation, Mr. John Thompson.
Southland has always tried to be a people-oriented company. For this reason, we feel that each of you in this room, the people who make the company run day in and day out, are the single most valuable asset that we have. We care very much about your safety and your well-being as employees of our company. For this reason, we want to present to you a summary of available information dealing with a serious problem facing our society, rape. That's why we've prepared this film, which you will be seeing in just a moment. Please watch carefully and learn as much as you can, because the better prepared you are for any situation that might arise, the safer you'll be, whether at home or on the job. Thank you.
The next thing I knew, I felt someone jumping on top of my bed. I was asleep on my back. I could feel someone pinning my arms down with his knees and covering my face with a gloved hand and sticking a knife in my throat with his other hand and said, "Turn over and shut up or I'll kill you."
This is Carolyn Craven. She's a professional journalist and a single parent. In January of 1978, Carolyn was a victim of rape.
If you're a woman living in the United States, the chances of your being raped during your lifetime are 1 in 12. A rape is reported in the United States once every 7 minutes. It can happen in an office, in parking lots, shopping malls, and most often in the victim's own home, almost anywhere. A rape victim can be anyone. It can be a man or a woman, a small child, or a very old person. And their assailant can be an acquaintance or a total stranger. It may surprise you to know that rapists are not motivated by sexual desire. The most common motivations for rape are power over the victim or aggression toward her. A lot is known about providing treatment for victims and about what happens to rapists in the criminal justice system. But what is not generally known or discussed is that there are many options available which may reduce the possibility of being confronted with the threat of being raped, and other options which may be used if confronted. The first and most important thing is this: each of you must convince yourself that you could be the victim of a sexual assault.
Despite the fact that I had talked to police officers and I had talked to rape victims and I had talked to psychiatrists and people who ran rape treatment centers, I still believed until it happened to me that it was something that happened to somebody else, happened to another kind of woman. And I wasn't that kind of woman, so clearly it would never happen to me.
It can happen to anyone, any time of the day or night, anywhere without warning. What do you believe you would do if you were confronted by a rapist? Since people and situations vary, there is no single response that is always right when a person is confronted with the threat of being raped.
He said, I'm going to get up and close the door. He said, so I'm going to leave you for a minute. He said, but remember, when I walk to the door, I am closer to your son than you are. If you move, I swear I'll kill your son. I kept thinking that if I did something and I got killed or badly hurt, he'd kill Gabriel, and that there was nothing I could do. I couldn't protect my son. That no matter what was going to happen, I had to stay alive, if only because my staying alive at least gave me a good shot at keeping my son alive.
Responses vary because of differences in the location of the encounter, the characteristics of the assailant, the presence of a weapon, and other factors. No one response is foolproof, and there are no guarantees, but you can become better prepared to protect yourself. The best weapon you have in a high-risk situation is your own judgment. Experts agree that the single most important step is for each of us to make a personal self-assessment ahead of time. In other words, ask yourself how you usually react in a crisis situation. You may find it necessary to consider alternative responses. Then, if you are ever confronted, you'll know what your own limitations and abilities are, and you'll know what your most effective reactions would be. If you are confronted with a danger such as rape, you'll need to evaluate the situation and choose a response that you feel, under the circumstances, would be your safest response. Your best weapon is your own judgment. There are a number of alternatives. One is to comply with the rapist's demands.
You can survive rape. You can't survive murder. You can survive rape. Rape is violent enough. It is as violent as anybody ever, it's as much violence as anyone needs. The thing for any victim is to know, any potential victim, is to, one, know what you're capable of doing. Know if you're capable of resisting, of running away or screaming or help. But if it can't, don't do something to increase the violence.
If you're faced with a threat of harm to yourself or to a loved one, the safest response may be to comply with the rapist's demands to avoid more serious physical harm. Remember this, you could be seriously injured or killed. Your survival is the most important thing, not only to you, but to your family and your loved ones. Other options, which have been used successfully by other people, include negotiating, stalling for time, or attempting to bargain with the assailant by offering him money or valuables. Whatever can be done to provide more time to think may work to your advantage. If the assailant is distracted, you may have an opportunity to escape. Keep your self-control as best you can and try not to be intimidated. In other words, be assertive but not aggressive. You might consider saying, I can't, instead of I won't. Don't put him down because of what he's doing. This could increase his anger and your chances of being hurt. It's important to re-emphasize that when you're stalling for time, negotiating, or using any of the other options we've considered, you're maintaining your self-control, all the while assessing the situation and looking for a way out of the confrontation. Other responses include physical actions to distract the assailant. Women have vomited, pretended to faint, fake a seizure or heart attack, or even claim to be pregnant. There are other, more active options available, such as screaming to attract attention or physically resisting and fighting off the attacker. Opinions vary. Some studies indicate that victims who resist may avert the rape, while other studies indicate that rape victims who resist suffer far more serious physical injury than those who do not. Remember to keep assessing the situation as it's happening. If the alternative you selected first does not work, try another. Sometimes the assailant will try to get you to leave and go someplace with him. Carefully consider the risks involved and use your own judgment in making a decision. It'll be your decision based on the circumstances whether or not you leave with the assailant. Trust your gut feeling. Your survival is the most important thing. If you are assaulted, observe everything you can about the assailant and remember as much as you can in terms of physical characteristics and other identifying information.
I knew the moment that the police came and they started asking questions, had I seen him, what had happened, that I really had been able to use my senses. That even though I hadn't seen him, I could tell him that he was probably over 6 feet tall, that he weighed about 200 pounds, that he was a black male, that he had no hair on his chest, he had very strong arms, stubbly beard. I knew all those things about him because I had paid attention, and that my skills as a reporter really did work. I mean, that I had paid attention, and that I knew that, and so that I knew that that was tremendous, you know, a tremendous help to them and a lot of information that they were being given. The other thing I knew was that I knew that I couldn't wash, I couldn't bathe. As filthy and dirty and slimy as I felt, I knew that I could not bathe, I could not do anything until I could go to the hospital and they could collect evidence under rape protocol. So that I did absolutely nothing. I didn't even wash my hands. I didn't brush anything off. I didn't take the nightgown off. I didn't do anything to the sheets. Everything was preserved so that the police could have as much evidence as possible.
Notify the police immediately. Preserve physical evidence. Do not wash, bathe, douche, change clothes, or disturb anything at the scene of the assault. Seek medical aid immediately, even if you don't think you have physical injuries. There are many things you can do to help make you safer in general. Be aware of your surroundings and of the people around you. Be alert and suspicious of people appearing and reappearing when you're alone. It's important to rely on your instincts. Don't ever hesitate to call the police if you think a person could be of danger to you. And don't be embarrassed if it turns out to be a false alarm. When confronted with the threat of a sexual attack, you have only one concern, and that's your personal safety. The same prevention techniques that help reduce the incidence of armed robbery may also reduce the risk of sexual assault. Give your store a fishbowl appearance. Make sure that there are no signs or merchandise blocking the windows, and that the lighting in the store allows passers-by to see in and see you. Give your store a look that says, I am alert, I am vigilant. The store should be clean, and you should wear your store smock in order to look official. Not only should you look alert, but you should be alert. Greet everyone who comes in and let them know that you see them. Again, watch for anyone who hangs around, and don't be afraid to call the police if you become suspicious. If you receive telephone calls from a person you don't know, don't give any unnecessary information to them. Being cautious when you're on the telephone is a smart idea, not only at work, but also at home. If you're working at night, do not go outside the store unnecessarily. Be careful about being lured out of the store by anyone saying they're having car trouble or saying they're injured and need help. Make it clear that you'll be glad to phone for help, but that you cannot leave the store. This same rule applies when you're at home. Do not open the door. Tell any stranger at your door that you'll be glad to call for help, but do not let the person into your home under any circumstances. On the way to and from your car or your home, always have your keys ready to unlock the door and enter as quickly as possible. Before getting in, always check the inside of the car and lock your car doors as soon as you get in. If you suspect that somebody is following you, do not drive to your home. Instead, drive immediately to a police or fire station or to some well-lighted place for help. There are other materials relating to your personal safety that are available to you through Southland. The most important thing for your safety is that you be constantly alert and aware of the people around you and of your surroundings. You need to be aware so you don't have to be afraid.
It was awful for months, and I thought, I'll never get over the grief. I'll never be able to think about it without crying. I'll never be able to feel strong enough to be alone in a room or a house. It wasn't true. I did survive. I did make it. I don't ever go through a day when I don't think about it. Something triggers it, somebody says something dumb, anything, it could be anything. I think about it every day. I don't dwell on it. It doesn't affect my life in any serious way except to make me aware and safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the board of the Southland Corporation, Mr. John P. Thompson.
Hello, everybody. I asked to be a part of this film you're about to see because I want you to know why we made it. We made it because we care about you. I hope you know that we recognize full well your importance to this company. Day in and day out, you are one of the most valuable assets we have. And so quite naturally, your personal safety and well-being are uppermost in our minds. Thank you for being here and for watching this film having to do with violence. We hope it will better prepare you to deal with situations which might arise, both on the job and at home.
What's the matter?
Nothing.
Nothing? Look like you just lost your best friend.
I might as well have.
What do you mean?
Forget it.
Forget it. Look, something's bugging you. I want to know what it is.
I said, forget it. The damage has already been done anyway.
What damage, for God's sake?
If you don't know what I'm talking about, you've got amnesia.
What the hell are you talking about?
The way you acted at the party.
Oh, hell, that.
Yeah, that. Is that all you got to say about it?
No, I could say a hell of a lot more.
You said a lot more than you needed to at Joanne's.
It wasn't as if I started it.
You sure didn't try to stop it. After all, it was my sister's party.
What do you want me to do, sit there and take it?
You know how she is.
I sure do, and I sure as hell told her.
I was never more embarrassed in my life.
Well, you're a big girl. You can handle it.
I shouldn't have to. You just need to learn when to keep your damn mouth shut.
I don't have to learn a damn thing. Your sister's a creep, and I told her so.
So self-centered. The only thing you care about is yourself. Look out for that car.
That stupid idiot.
You pulled into his lane. It was your fault.
The hell it was.
Oh, damn, we need some milk. There's a 7-Eleven up ahead.
You didn't pick up milk this afternoon?
I didn't have time.
You never have time.
We need the milk. Will you pull into the store?
All right, all right. Damn, you're incredible.
Well, how are you doing?
Great, just great.
Well, that's good.
No, it's not. It's lousy.
Sorry.
You know, you people ought to arrange your milk vault better. There must be 50 things in front of that milk.
Well, we try to have the milk so customers can get to it easily. Maybe we made a mistake when we were stocking the vault.
Yeah, well, I knocked a bunch of things on the floor, and it wasn't my fault.
No problem. Doesn't look like anything was broken.
It's a damn wonder.
Will there be anything else besides the milk?
If I wanted anything else, I would have gotten it.
Sure thing. Thanks for stopping by.
Hi, I'm Ray Johnson, a consultant to the Southland Corporation on crime prevention. What you have just seen is a bad situation that could have gotten a lot worse. The reason it didn't is because the clerk handled the customer in the right way. He didn't do anything or say anything that made the customer any angrier. The customer was mad when he came into the store. He used the incident with the milk as an excuse to vent his anger at the clerk. The problem could have been after-hour beer sales, loitering, checking IDs, or any number of other things. The fact is, the customer was ready for an argument, but the clerk wouldn't let himself get involved. There are a lot of ways you can deal with an angry customer. To tell you about some of them, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Robert Jones, a clinical psychologist who specializes in the subject of aggression and violence. Dr. Jones.
Thank you, Ray. What you saw may not have seemed to have been an extremely serious situation. And because of the way it was handled by the store clerk, it didn't get to be a real problem, but it could have. There are things that can and should be done to keep a tense situation from escalating. How you act affects others. It affects the way they think, the way they feel, the way they behave. This is important. So let's take another look at the beginning of this film. As you can see, this man and woman are having a rather heated argument. They are moving from one level of emotion to another in terms of escalated anger. And up until the man comes into the store, the problem is strictly between the man and the woman. But the moment he steps into the store, it becomes the store clerk's problem too. The storeman's response, how he reacts, can have a real effect on whether this situation escalates into a violent situation or whether the transaction will be completed successfully and the man will leave the store no angrier than he came in. If the store clerk responds to this, and allows his personal feelings of anger to enter into the situation, the chances of making a bad situation worse, even violent, increase. In this case, the store clerk did not inject his feelings of anger into the situation. He depersonalized what happened, and he didn't give the man any reason to get angrier. He avoided the edge of violence. It's extremely important to give positive verbal and nonverbal feedback to an angry customer in order to avoid making him angrier. This includes our facial expressions, our posture, our action, and our depersonalized comments. Above all, it is extremely important for the store person to think ahead to what he wants to have happen, and that is to complete the transaction as quickly as possible and to have the customer leave the store no more agitated than he was when he came in. By thinking clearly about what he wants to have happen, the store clerk will reduce his own tension and will not provoke the customer into becoming angrier, thus avoiding the edge of violence. In essence, then, he maintains control, and he doesn't say anything or do anything that will make the situation worse. The clerk must decide to act in a professional way. Potentially anger-provoking situations occur every day in all of our lives. Anger is simply a part of life, and it's healthy to relieve anger in a positive, constructive way. But hostile situations that develop within a working environment need to be controlled in order to keep tension and anger from escalating. Because when anger increases, the potential for violence increases, and here, avoiding the edge of violence is simply good business. The main reason for this film is to help you keep from becoming an accidental partner in a hostile situation, to keep you from getting hurt by an unreasonable, angry, irate, or hostile customer. As I mentioned earlier, you have more control than you think in determining whether a bad situation gets worse, even from the moment an irate customer steps into your store. But you have to decide. If you allow your personal feelings to enter into your interaction with an angry customer, the chances are that the situation will deteriorate, and your chances of getting hurt will also increase. So ask yourself this question: what is my safety worth? If you really think about it from this point of view, a lot of other things fall into place, and they make sense when we're talking about a hostile situation. Is your safety worth a bottle of wine or a six-pack or a candy bar that someone takes from your store without paying for it? Of course, you'll need to maintain control, and you'll need to tell a person that you're going to have to call the police if what they're doing is against the law. But never follow them out of the store. Do not approach them or attempt to physically restrain them, and never lock them in the store. Remember, you're a store clerk. You're not a social worker, a policeman, a security officer, or a judge. Now, you'll have to let your customers know that you're aware of what they're doing. But be polite. Be professional about it. If you assume a professional attitude, and if you give the appearance to your customers that you know your job and that you're paying attention to what's going on in the store, then your customers will respond more positively to you, and you'll have more control over the outcome of any situations that might arise. Also, when you're dealing with your customer, be a good observer. Notice what they're doing and what they're saying to you. When a customer asks you something, listen carefully to what they say and to how they look when they're saying it. If they are angry or agitated for some reason, don't take what they're saying personally. Try to view the situation in a detached but friendly way. Respond to what they're saying with controlled feeling, controlled emotional responses. Think ahead to what your desired results in this situation are. Remember, you want this transaction to end quickly and successfully. You want to get the person out of the store as soon as possible. So think ahead. That is your desired result. Several things will happen if you do this. First, your own anxiety level will decrease, which will keep you from taking what the customer is saying personally. And secondly, you will be mentally forming a plan of action that will get the confrontation over more quickly and will get the customer out of the store and on his way no angrier than he was when he came in. Now, as you saw in the opening sequence, a 7-Eleven store can be a potentially high-stress environment. Customers are usually in a rush. That's why they stopped in our store in the first place. The customer could have had car trouble. He could have had a disagreement. Maybe the kids were yelling, or the traffic was awful, or any one of 100 different frustrating things could have happened to that customer before he pulled into your parking lot. If you will keep this in mind as he steps through the doors, and then if you'll carry out a controlled and planned transaction with this customer without getting caught up personally in the way he is acting or with what he is saying, the likelihood that the situation will get worse is greatly reduced. This is a very important thing for you to realize. And once you understand it, it will go a long way towards increasing both your safety and the safety of other customers in the store. Remember, you can always escalate a situation, but you can't always bring it down. There are things that you can do that can give the disturbed customer no reason to become more agitated than he already is. For instance, try this. Respond to his feelings. Let him know you understand. You can do this by saying things like, "That must be really frustrating for you," or, "It's easy to understand how that would have made you angry." When you do this, you're showing him that you can understand and accept his feelings and his frustrations. It's this positive acceptance, this positive feedback that all people need. And whether the feedback is verbal or simply a pleasant, understanding look on your face, you are still going a long way towards making sure that communication doesn't break down. You are backing away from the edge of violence. The edge of violence. That point past which there may be no return. So you have to be aware of it. You have to be able to back away from it. You have to make the choice. And you have to remember that you have more control, more choices than you think. And here are some more important things to remember when you're dealing with a stressful situation. When you're speaking to the customer, use short sentences, simple words in clear terms, and be willing to repeat what you said and let him know that you do or do not understand what he is saying. Don't speak too loudly or too softly, and speak slowly enough for the person to clearly understand what you were saying. And here's an extremely important point. Try to look as pleasant, as non-threatening, and as non-judgmental as possible. The question is, how do you look? What messages are you sending? What feelings are you showing? They may be much different than you intend, and they may be much different than you want. Now, let's take a look at 3 people to see what kind of reaction you have to them. Remember, these people haven't said anything to you. You're just responding to the way they look, to their posture, their facial expressions, and whether or not they seem interested in you. In the case of clerk number 1, it's obvious that she doesn't seem to really care about you or what you're going to be saying to her. And if you feel a little frustrated looking at her, well, that's a very natural response. She's giving no positive feedback to you as a person, and she doesn't seem interested at all in what you as a customer want or need. Now, clerk number 2 probably makes you a little upset, somewhat angry. Again, this is a natural response to the negative nonverbal feedback he's giving you. He appears to be threatening you just with a look on his face, and his body posture tells you that he's going to be somewhat aggressive no matter what you say to him. So naturally, you get your defenses up. And if you're already upset or frustrated about something, well, just the way he is standing and looking at you will cause you to become more anxious, more upset, and maybe even angry. Now, clerk number 3, however, is putting you at ease with his appearance, with the way he is looking at you and the way he is standing. You have no reason to feel concerned about his response to you. He has a look of a professional, of a person who's interested in what you have to say, and he seems to care about you as a person. Again, in these 3 examples, not one word was spoken, but you formed an opinion of each store clerk based strictly on their facial expression, on their posture, and whether or not they appeared to be interested in you. Each one of them was giving you some type of nonverbal message, and the way you felt about them was a direct result of those nonverbal signals. Now, if a customer becomes unreasonable with you, Let him know what you can do and what you cannot do. Tell him that what he's asking for is against company policy or against the law, and that you simply cannot comply with his request. Use the word because. Say something like, I can't do that because it's against company policy, or because it's against the law. By using the word because, you are telling him that it is simply out of your hands, and that you have no alternative but to comply with the company procedure or with the law. You have now stepped under the protective umbrella of company rules which were established by others. In this way, if the customer becomes angrier, he is directing his anger at the company policy or at the law, and not at you. We've told you a lot of things during this film. We've given you a lot of examples of how you can more effectively deal with an aggressive situation and how you can keep anger and frustration from increasing. We believe that the materials we've presented here will not only help you in your work, but also in your everyday life, in your relationships with your family and with your friends. We would like to ask you to view this film again at a later date so that the information we've given you can stay fresh in your mind. We will also make printed material available to you so that you can study and reinforce the methods and the techniques of dealing with anger-provoking situations that we've covered here.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. I hope that what you have seen in this film really hits home to you, because we are talking about you and your safety. Like Dr. Jones said, we would like for you to see this film more than once, because the more familiar you are with the tips that we have given you, the better you will know how to deal with an aggressive and potentially violent customer. At Southland, we're concerned about you, and we want you to know that you are the most valuable asset we have as a company, because you are Southland, and your safety and well-being are of great concern to us.